Do I have to turn up the volume?
Nope. It's still in the same.
I didn't start recording yet. Shut my ears away. It's the first recording I've done because I screwed up with everything else. How do I get this hooked? Fuck. How come this?
You want it? Yes, you want it. Like, oh. Like there. You can't see it.
And behind my hair?
Yeah.
Okay, make all the noise you want.
What?
Make all the noise you want for the next 90 seconds. Maybe take off your shoes.
How much noise will a shower make?
A lot. But it doesn't matter. Nobody's coming to my show anyway. Just try. Oops.
Here.
I don't want anything to eat. Love you. Have fun. I don't even know if I had the camera on right.
Is it even on?
I don't know.
It's on. That's good.
Now let's see about my little remote control here. He rigged it on my phone. So I hit camera.
And you're on.
Start stream. Did it work? It's on?
It's flipping back and forth to something.
Oh crap. This part right here needs to be turned on.
He didn't add something.
Right here. So start the camera.
It might be locked.
Nice. Did you press? Oh. What? It's not working? Can you check and see if I'm live on my live stream?
You've been live for the last 7 minutes.
Nice. All right. Well, that was fun. Thanks, Jason, my IT guy / husband / funder. All right. Welcome to Zing Show. I'm Ruth Ann Wood, your host. and I'm going to tell a couple stories and interact with you guys. Let's see here. Let me find YouTube Live. Maybe. Okay, this is embarrassing. Let's see here. All right, look at that. It's the first time in 3 days my technology is working and I'm live. And, that's one of the reasons why we have Zing Stories is so we can plan what we really want to do, but then go with the flow when we're still learning stuff. And I want to tell you about, let's draw a card first. Yesterday was perfect because it was about love and I wanted to tell love stories. So it's a whole bunch of cards. This is the first deck I ever received at age 16. I was on a camping trip in a friend's backyard for a whole 5 days by myself. And this single guy that had this property around my parents' age, he kept inviting these single women over to check on this young teenager. And one of these single ladies, brought me this deck, the Mother Peace cards, which are probably over 40 years old. And the very first card I drew was something called the Hanged One, which it was all about introspective and retreat. And anyway, let's see if I can draw one now. And oh, this is one of my favorite cards. It's the Fool card. And doing this Philly Fringe Festival, I definitely feel like a fool because it's unscripted. It's unlimited possibilities. It's got all these amazing animals here. It's got magic mushrooms and a cat, an alligator, a cane, a poncho or a backpack that carries all the wisdom, a wise bird. So there you go. So one of the reasons why I'm wearing my Carmen Sandiego hat is because my grandmother and my family inspired travel adventures at an early age. My very first memorable adventure was at the beach, but it wasn't in the United States, it was in Jamaica. And I remember around age 4 or 5, before my brother was born, when I was 6.5, that we went to Jamaica and we're surrounded by all these interesting little villages and ocean. And I had never been to the beach before. And I remember eating this ackee sandwich or egg sandwich. It tasted like egg sandwich, but it was a weird fruit called ackee. And I asked my mom, why is my sandwich so salty? So we all have stories of why things are, even though they may or may not have anything to do with what's really going on. And the cool part about our stories is our past is already here and gone, and our future hasn't been created yet. So one of the things that I love to do, even before I knew about Zing Stories or scripting for success, was I would write short stories as a little kid in elementary school. And these stories range from time travel to getting an amazing little watch that would like transport you to like the Mesozoic period or prehistoric times. I wrote a story about going back in time in fourth grade and saving the 7 astronauts in the Challenger explosion because that event really affected my life. I was second or third grade when the Challenger exploded with Krista McCullough, the first civilian to ever fly in space. And within like 74 seconds or sometime like that, the whole ship exploded and then crashed to the ocean. But a couple of years earlier, I had written a short story in first grade about myself in the story. It was only a couple pages long and it had very rudimentary artwork. Uh, but it was called The Letter That Changed My Life, about wanting to be the first kid in space. And my spaceship took off, and within a very short time in the takeoff, my spaceship exploded and I became a star in the heavens. And that really hit me. I remember coming back from after school drawing class, and my mom told me the space shuttle exploded. And I really took it personally because I was like, that reminds me of my story that I wrote a couple of years earlier. And then fast forward to a couple other stories I wrote in grade school. We had a really great program. It was called the Young Authors Contest. And we were all assigned to write short stories and create them into a little bound book once a year. So another story I wrote was called Colored Glasses. And it was about two best friends in high school, way before I was in high school. One was called August, and she loved hang gliding. And for science fair, she also loved creating secret video glasses. And this was before there were cell phones with video cameras on it. This is before the internet. This is this was living in the future. So that was my story, living in the future. And basically, so the story was about these secret hidden glasses. And I remember a couple months later, I was laying on my bed and my mom came into my bedroom and she dropped a magazine clipping down on my bed. And it was of the pretty similar to the video glasses that were in my short story. And she's like, look, dear, the Japanese designed your colored glasses. So that was one of many times that my stories had some kind of prophetic quality to them. And I think as a kid, I was trying to escape some of the things that were awkward in my life, like having scoliosis, a really curved back. I have that now, but it's a lot more manageable with acupressure and massage and yoga. So, yeah. So, anyway, another character in that colored glasses story was August's best friend, or Julie's best, yeah, August's best friend who loved hang gliding and creating colored glasses. Her name was Julie, and she had won a scholarship her senior year in high school in my story for environmental studies. And it was pretty cool because fast forward like 4 or 5 years, I too won a scholarship through the environmental club at Penn State for conservation leadership, a summer program. So all these little things that I had written about started to click. And is very interesting. And but it wasn't until like I turned, well, let me let me tell you another thing that happened to Julie. So she won in my short story a trip around the world through a scholarship to study marine biology. And I had a intuitive nudge to finish my high school half a year early and work at a summer camp full of all these best-selling personal development authors, holistic studies, and things like that. So I finished up all my coursework. I never really took study halls, and I was always taking honors classes and things like that, but I wasn't really motivated to go to college. Um, but I did start a 3-year program in high school for acupressure, for shiatsu massage, which literally means thumb pressure. And um, that really opened up the work that I do today because I learned about the flow of energy, the flow of different energy channels that run through our body, how they correspond to the seasons, different times of year. Um, and in my early 20s, I discovered that I could, instead of physically working on people with thumb pressure and elbow pressure and knee pressure and massage, I could use the power of words to move energy. So that's kind of what ZINGstories is, an intro to it. Writing stories that elicit certain emotions and feelings and thoughts, and then testing those thoughts and feelings when you read the story out loud and noticing whether you have resistance or you have acceptance of that story. So apparently a lot of those stories that I wrote in grade school, which were very sci-fi at the time, I grew up watching Star Trek with my mom as early as preschool reruns. That and the Brady Bunch. I wanted to be in a large family, and I was a only child at the time. Um, and eventually, um, I locked my best friend Kevin in the house when I was like 5 and a half and told him he had to stay and be my brother. And that's when my parents decided to have another kid. And so, like, these little desires were flowing throughout my life of what I wanted, and then, like, forgetting about it, and then going back to my short stories and my journal entries and my notes for stories, and then discovering that the things that I wrote in my journal had elements of truth in my life. So I told you about a lot of these stories in elementary school that I wrote. It wasn't until ninth grade, when I was in a small Christian school, that my teacher, Mr. Lamb, he was both my science teacher and my creative writing ninth grade teacher. And I had shared a go with the flow type journal entry for the day. And it was imagining this classroom full of students that had no clue what the teacher was asking them to do. And then the very next paragraph in my story, it was the next day, and both my narrator character and my teacher in the story looked at each other with this deep knowing, and realized that the students had had a quantum leap of understanding, and they suddenly knew how to do the projects that were assigned the day before, which they had no clue about the day before. So in real life, I had written this short story like on a Monday, or within 5 days of it, catching my teacher's attention in science lab. We were all supposed to put, we were all given like a glass container and then stick a balloon around it so it fit like a glove inside the flask. And all we were given was a rubber balloon and a straw. So if you have any clue on how to make that balloon fit like a glove, write in the comments what how you do that science project. So anyway, we were in lab groups, and within like 10 minutes, everybody started figuring out how to use the straw and the balloon to make the balloon fit like a glove on the inside of the glass. And I think I had just watched my first movie, Monty Python movie, which was very advanced for a ninth grader. It was the meaning of life, so there was a lot of sex and every sperm is sacred and stuff like that in the story. And I know one of the stories in the Monty Python, one of the characters yells out, "And now for something completely different." And I ended up writing that in my story as something that the teacher said when he noticed that the students had like a quantum leap of understanding. So here I am, just writing this couple paragraph short story and not thinking about it and sharing it in class for some reason. I guess we went around the circle and shared. So my actual teacher, Mr. Lamb, he caught himself saying what the teacher in my story said, noticing we had all figured out how to use the straw to stick it in the flask, blow the balloon, and then pull the straw out right after it conforms on the inside. So it had a place for the air to escape. And if you ever heard of the phenomenon Monkey 99, where these scientists were in a helicopter or airplane and they dropped all these sweet potatoes on an island. And then the monkeys had never seen sweet potatoes, which were covered with sand. But a couple monkeys started washing their sweet potatoes in the water, and they were able to eat them without them being sandy. Well, apparently, within a couple hours or days, the scientists noticed that not just those first initial monkeys that learned how to do it and teach their other monkey friends how to do it, but all throughout the collective islands, all these monkeys were suddenly washing these potatoes. So the same phenomenon happened with me and my classmates. We all figured out how to use the straw to make the balloon expand in the glass, and there was no communication between lab stations. And that's when the teacher kind of felt like there was a quantum leap of understanding. So fast forward a couple days later, and Mr. Lamb is sharing his journal entry, and he's writing, "Ruth Ann is amazing," talking about me. And I'm sitting there like, what? What did I do? And he basically said that she wrote a story a couple days ago about a teacher that saw a huge transformation in his students. And that story, that experience happened in my science lab. And then I found myself almost uttering the same words that were in Ruth's short story that the teacher said in her short story. So I didn't know what to say. I just sat there and smiled because I had been writing short stories that were very creative since first grade. And this was the first time anyone had acknowledged that my stories were anything but short stories. And he went on to go and say, "Ruth is the writer of our lives," because what she wrote in English class came true in science lab. And immediately some of my classmates started saying, "Well, write a story about me winning $1 million or winning lottery." And in my infinite ninth grade wisdom, I said, "Well, Kurt," I still remember his name, "well, Kurt, it doesn't work like that. It's more subtle." So it's been almost 40 years since that experience. And I've written hundreds of stories for myself and many more for client stories. Um, Let me tell you another one that happened recently. In there was a I went. I'm blessed to have a really good library in my local community, uh, Bucks County Library. And for a while, when I had a CD player in my car, I would just like walk up and down the audiobook rows at the library and pick out books of inspiring people, not knowing what I was going to pick. I just kind of grabbed them. And one day, two books caught my attention. It was about a lady called Gloria Steinem, who was one of the co founders of Miss Magazine, and another autobiography jumped off the shelf, one by Carol Burnett, who's a famous actress, improv artist, who every week for a number of years wrote her own original comedy skits and then had the whole cast of characters act them out. Um, so I was enthralled within a week. I had listened to both of these autobiographies and I wanted to be like both of these women. Um, this was back in 2018. And I wrote in my Google Calendar, I want to be like these women. And that's all I really wrote, but I felt such a connection. I want to do theater and I wanted to do women's talking circles like Gloria Steinem, where she traveled around the world and led talking circles or discussion groups with women about empowerment and um, being blessed by all that. So I didn't think much of it and went about my day and my week. And this was September of 2018. And within a couple of days, I opened up an email by somebody called Danielle, who runs the Author Show. And I hadn't really read her emails in years, if I'm completely honest. And in there, she started talking about this organization I'd never heard of called well, the organization was called World Academy for the Future of Women. And I started reading about it, watching videos, and they were actually looking for facilitators to travel to different countries and spend 5 weeks in a foreign country at a university and work primarily with women, but also with male university students and teach 5 weeks of leadership training that was different modules that you write your own curriculum based on the module. So I didn't know any of this, but I still wrote my one-page essay and resume and I sent it off. And within a couple of days, I get a phone call from this very enthusiastic woman who later I find out is the founder of this nonprofit non-government organization called Global Interactions. And she didn't even really interview me. She was just so excited by my resume and thought I had gone on some pretty amazing adventures traveling to different parts of the world, putting on Fringe Festival, being a wellness therapist, wellness coach, holistic practitioner for over 20 years. So, yeah, I flew to Arizona. I live in Philadelphia. And I flew to Arizona and I learned all about how they needed facilitators in China. And she literally helped me get a visa that day. And the 2 days I was in Arizona, I was pretty much committed to going to China for 5 weeks. And I have to tell you, it was one of the most interesting, inspiring, life affirming, confidence building adventures of my life. And this is coming from someone that earlier that year had saved for half a year with my husband, and we had traveled to 5 countries in 5 weeks. We went to Thailand, India, Cambodia, Taiwan, and Japan. So to leave work a second time of the year to be gone for 6 weeks to go to China was something my work's like, what is going on with you, Ruth? And so, anyway, when I went there, I got to stay at a faculty lounge and have a student translator and basically learn about the culture in China through the World Academy for the Future of Women Global Interactions. Fast forward till now, I'm now on their United Nations task force where we have done presentations during the 3-week women's symposium at the United Nations and also other breakout sessions. And it's just opened up so much just by being inspired by something, writing a little short story about it, and really claiming, like, yeah, someday I'd like to do this. But then trusting all these little opportunities because I wrote it down in a story. I don't think if I had written it down, I would be like, okay, what is this strange email asking me to go facilitate in China? And now we've opened up through Global Interactions World Academy for the Future Women, place in Africa, in India, and in Mexico. And so we're still looking for facilitators, people that are so busy with their professional lives, but they feel like they have something to give back to these students that are leaders that are putting their leadership into action, doing projects around the sustainability development goals of the United Nations, which include clean water, clean air, gender equality, living wage, different peace initiatives. And there's 17 of them, and we work with the students with 13 of them: AIDS education, literacy, things like that. So I want to take a minute and have you just kind of stare off to one side and think, like, what is it that you want to write a story about, or what is it that you want to do that is tugging on your heartstrings and making you think, wow, I could do that, or I probably can't do it, but I'd still want to write a story about it. And in the last couple of years, what I've really noticed made a big difference in myself and clients is almost every day doing a journal entry where I just write down my stresses, my complaints, my aspirations, maybe fragments of a dream that I just had waking up, and write them all out, and then go back, reread it, feel the stress or whatever I wrote about, maybe the joy. Today I actually wrote a journal entry, and there was nothing I needed to change about it because it was all very positive. But some days I can be disillusioned or frustrated by technology or tired or whatever it is. And I write all that down. And then since I've been doing this for close to 25, 30 years, it's only been recent that I have been using AI to go back and take my journal entry and flip it to all positive statements. So instead of saying, I'm having trouble working my camera at the Fringe Festival, I flip it to, I'm learning new technology every day, things like that. Um, but the thing with Zing stories is it's not affirmations, it's actually um, one step further. Because what I've learned with positive statements and affirmations, there's something inside your mind um, or your senses called the reticular activating system, the RAS, and it filters all the things, all the patterns that you recognize. So you could be pretty much having the same type of conversations every day, running into the same people, um, running into the same challenges, having the same stresses, because that's your pattern, that's your filter. And so, using the power of stories, you can actually change your focus if you want. Now, Ruth, how do you do that if you are stuck and you don't know how to expand your business or travel more or have a better relationship with your family? Because that's not in your experience. It's never happened to you before. Well, good question. Um, what we do is we start jotting down qualities of people that we admire, whether they're friends or uh, more well known people, unless your friends are really well known and you want to use them. And you start jotting down all their qualities in that particular area that you're trying to develop in yourself. Um, so, like before this live festival, I went to Richard Branson's website on Virgin Galactic travel, and I wanted to kind of absorb his wording and the way he just talks about, flying and taking a trip and going on an adventure and investing large amounts of money. Now, you didn't have to do that. You are either seeing this after the broadcast or you spent up to $20 on the ticket to see me. I forgot I had a feather here. That's hilarious. But anyway, gotta take it out. But anyway, so yeah, so I used some of the languaging and the pacing that was on Sir Richard Branson's website to write my Zing story. And that was pretty interesting because I wonder if I could find it. Maybe I can. But it's basically talking about, how you prepare for the adventure and the steps to get there and the level of commitment and how it's a life-changing experience. All things that are important when you're about to go on an amazing trip. And I find with these Zing stories, we can direct our attention. And I like saying that Zing is pure positive joy that fills your body when you read a story out loud and it resonates with you. And if you don't feel the zing, it ain't no thing because it's not what you really want. Or there's some kind of hidden story or energy block in the body from past memories that you may not even be aware of, that when you read your story, you don't feel the connection to your ideal future choice. Let me tell you another Zing story from a friend and a client of mine who was getting a last minute audit for her business the very next day. And she was calling me, probably after 8 or 9 o'clock at night and going, Ruth, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I'm getting all these tax papers together. I'm, what do I need to get? And I just need to talk to somebody. So I immediately told her, let's calm down because there's nothing we really can do about it. So you're stressing yourself out with something you can't really change. But what would you be doing if you weren't? What would you be doing in your business or your free time or your day if you weren't worried about this tax audit? Well, it took me a couple minutes to get her to switch mode or switch gears because she was so wrapped up in the stress of her story. And so we talked about all the great things that she's going to be doing in her career and with the people that she worked with. And by the end of the phone call, she was laughing. We were both joking. Well, less than 24 hours later, she had met with the tax auditor, the IRS representative, and she said that she was laughing during the meeting because very shortly into their conversation, the tax auditor said, "You know what? The IRS made an accounting error. You don't owe us anything." So when she called me back, she was really grateful that I had helped her get in a relaxed mode so she could really hear that information and be less stressed going into the meeting. So yeah, things like that happen all the time. I had another client that basically was doing a big launch on JVZoo. And he had these salespeople making phone calls for a couple of days and they weren't really selling much. And this guy had never heard of me before. A friend got on the phone with me and this launch manager, sales manager, and said, "Talk to Ruth." So I figured out like he was just complaining about his sales team and how they weren't performing and they weren't hitting their metrics. And I basically asked them, "Well, what are some things you do like about your team?" And he started listing them. And then I invited him to write a Zing story of their new job descriptions of them doing the things that they were already good at and using that to sell the product. So within 24 hours later, I'm notified that not only did he write the new job descriptions for 4 or 5 people in his sales team, but he came to work that next day, the day after our call, and it was like he had talked to them, but he never did. And he noticed that their sales had, by the end of the day, were higher than they had been all week combined. And they went on to sell somewhere around $460,000 worth of product for their new launch on JVZoo. And it helped him stop complaining about what wasn't working and focus on what he wanted them to do and not be so involved in the stressful process of trying to micromanage. I hope I'm giving you some good examples. So when we do our Zing travel, you will be able to take this meditation that we're about to do, this Zing trip, and use it for your own enjoyment. What was the other story that just popped to my mind? Oh yeah, a Texas landowner had property sitting around, dozens of acres sitting around for over a year and nothing was selling. And basically, I had this person write down the type of ideal conversations that would be the type of conversations that would be had when the property was under contract and was selling. So this is sort of a email correspondence. And so I would read what the person wrote, and I could feel the resistance and the disbelief in the one or two sentence statements. And I said, okay, rewrite it so it doesn't slow down the Zing story, where you actually feel the flow of your decision and the flow of what you really want. So about a month into the program, I was proud to say that my student had found a buyer and was under contract. And ironically enough, a lot of the very simple conversations that were being said in the Zing stories were also echoed in real life conversations. So now it's your turn. I'm going to have you get in a comfortable space. You might even want to close your eyes. You might even want to put your hand on your heart or relax your hands in your lap. You can lie down, but don't fall asleep on me. And I'm going to take you in a quantum leap portal where our Zing stories have more energy and more magnitude. So whatever we bring in this portal, it magnifies whatever we're feeling or thinking by many, many fold. So if you're feeling negative or depressed, you probably don't want to do this, because it's like turning the loudspeaker on to your thoughts, your prayers, your intentions, your decisions. All right. And I hear the wind and the rain about to come, so it's kind of interesting right now. Right out my window. We're going to travel like Carmen Sandiego into the portal. Take a couple deep breaths. Feel or see a spark of light or heat right in your heart area. It could be any color you want, but I either like purple or bright white. And feel that energy expand all throughout your cells in your body. Feel it tingling. Feel it like a cloud moving throughout your body of bright white light, or a spotlight, covering every dark nook and cranny in your body, and have it like permeate every cell in your body, so it's like singing. And it fills up your eyes, your nose, your mouth, all your senses. This light fills up your chest and your stomach and your hips and your legs. Your hands and your feet. Now you feel the light inside your body pulsing. There's just so much light and energy going on that you're beaming with gratitude and love and joy. But this light is so bright that it can't be contained in your body. It's actually seeping out your pores until you're starting to glow. This light is so bright and so powerful and so loving, it oozes and pours out into the room that you're in. Fills up the whole space you're in, or the car, or the neighborhood, or the park. And it just keeps on going beyond the physical building that you're in, beyond the yard, beyond the property, beyond the street. This light is coming from your heart, and it's flowing beyond the neighborhood. Feel it pulsing as you do it. And it fills up your whole town or city. And in my case, it's filling up all of the suburbs in Philadelphia, which is an hour from me. This light is pouring around all of Pennsylvania. It's moving like a blanket across our nation, across the United States, across the continent. Over the oceans, the light from your heart is spreading across the oceans to all the other continents. Take some nice deep breaths. Acknowledge how connected you are as the bright light from your heart that represents love and empowerment is flowing all around the planet. And now it's so bright that it can't even be contained on planet Earth. In fact, this light that's so bright is reaching out to the sun. And the sun and the light from your heart are interplaying back and forth like a dance or Morse code. And all the things that you think about or feel are now surrounded by this bright white light. And you have a spaceship view of the earth and of the sun. And you have this keen awareness that there's all these little blue dots around all the continents, maybe some of them in the water. And these are people that you're connected with all around the world. Billions of them. Little blue dots everywhere. And you notice these strands of gold threads that connect all these blue dots, like a spider web or one of those telephone commercials where it shows how we're all connected all around the world. But instead of using cell phones, we're using our heart link. And now I invite you to send emerald green or whatever color you use for empowerment. Send them along these golden threads of light. Feel the whole threads of connection pulsing with bright white light energy. And you're sending it gratitude and empowerment. Now I'm going to share my message for the world in Philadelphia. That everyone, hi, I'm Ruth Ann Wood from Scripting for Success during my ZINGstories live broadcast. And I'm sending you waves of empowerment and gratitude and insight and inspiration and creativity and self-love and blessings and miracles and zing stories that help you focus on what feels really good in your life. And if you want to know more about this connection, check out Zing Stories at the Philly Fringe Festival and just enjoy this journey that we're on. And also in your spare time after this broadcast or even during, you can take out a clean page and journal and flip those ideas into positive statements and then flip those into happily ever after zing stories of something that already happened in your life in the story, whether or not it happened already. In the story, it has. And this will help your reticular activating system notice more conversations, resources, support, synchronicities, relationships that support your zing story. So make it a good one. Be very specific about your ideal decisions as if they've already played out in your life, that you're living the dream, you're in full swing of what it is that your heart desires. And then forget about it and start noticing conversations, opportunities, synchronicities, blessings, more joy in your day, pay raises, winning raffles, getting gifted college tuition, selling your land, having fun parties, being closer to your loved ones, saving on car payments, saving on medical expenses, all these things that my Zing clients have enjoyed. And now send more empowerment through those threads of golden light that connect you all around the world. And bring that white light back across the continents, back across the country, back across the state, back across your city or town, back across your neighborhood. Feel this gratitude coming back into your house or wherever you are right now, back into the room. All this love and light coming across back into your body, pulsing with even more pure positive joy. And put your hand by your heart and acknowledge that you can access this love and light and joy anytime you want. And it's even more powerful when you read your Zing story in one of these meditations. So I invite you to go back and maybe listen to this meditation and share your story. All right, well, that's an introduction to Zing Stories. I'm doing these live broadcasts and sharing it with the Philly Fringe community for a couple weeks. And then these videos are available on YouTube, so go back and comment on them, ask questions, and they'll inspire future conversations, maybe more specifically me helping you write and edit your Zing story, and even maybe taking it on one of these Zing travel meditations. So this is, I feel very blessed to have gifted you this experience and been in your presence. And I'm Ruth Ann Wood from Scripting for Success, and we just went on a mini Zing travel adventure. And I gotta figure here we go.